All right. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and start this recording, even though nobody is here yet. This is our final office hours of the summer. Um, and so I want to take some time to go over the final exam and let you guys know what to expect. On Tuesday, nobody arrived either at our office hours that I saw. If I missed somebody, I apologize. But um, I didn't have any questions from anybody via email or anything, so I didn't record any video. But today, I definitely want to go over the final exam and make sure everybody knows what to expect on that. I also want to go back over the grading scale and the point system and make sure that everybody knows exactly what they need to get what they want. So remember that the summer class is entirely structured based on points. It has nothing to do with percentages. Okay, so Perusall, quizzes, and exams are all just points. Okay, every Perusall assignment's been 5, the quizzes are 30, and the final exams are 100. So total, I think when it all comes out in the end, there'll be 441 points total that you could earn this summer. But I'm counting it out of 400 points. So in order to get a 100 for the course, you only need 400 points. To get an A, you need 360. To get a B, you need 320. For a C, you need 280. And anything below 280, you don't pass the class. But I really don't think there's anybody in serious danger of that as long as everybody shows up for the exam on Friday morning in my classroom at 9 a.m. So, um, there's I think 2 Perusall assignments that are left to grade. I got to grade the one that was due Tuesday night, and I don't think I put grades in for chapter 9. I need to do that. So I will do that before the end of the day. So by tonight, everybody should be able to log into your Google Classroom, and you can just add your points up to see how many you've got and how many you need in order to get the grade you want for the final exam. I think you're going to find that many of you don't need very many points at all on the exam. Okay, so my whole reason for doing the point system and for building in some extra points is so that when we get to the final exam, you're not feeling super stressed out about I have to make 100 on the exam in order to no. You basically just need however many points it takes to get you to the grade level that you want. So, like I said, for most of you, you're not going to need very many points to get to 360. So a lot of you have, really impressed me with the way you've commented in Perusall and the grades you've got on quizzes, and everything has exceeded my expectations this summer for the most part. So I'm proud of you guys, and I thank you for all your hard work. So let's talk about the exam. Because so much of the material in this half of the class is hypothesis testing or creating confidence intervals, it was hard for me to write a lot of multiple choice questions. So um, the exam is 50 questions, again, 2 points apiece. And the first 6 questions are fill in the blank. So these questions are basically definition type things, vocab. Okay, so things like the knowing the particulars of the standard normal distribution. Remember from chapter 6, the standard normal is one particular standard distribution where the mean is 0 and standard deviation is 1, and that's the only scenario that fits the standard normal. Okay, so you need to know that. You need to know how to interpret a z-score. Okay, remember what a z-score tells us. The central limit theorem from chapter 7, you just need to basically know that definition so that you can fill in. I'm not going to make it, it's not like a picky little teeny word. It's like a major word in the definition. So know the definition. You don't have to memorize it word for word, but just know what it is. You need to know the difference between point estimates and confidence intervals. Okay, know what each of those things does. You need to know the difference between type 1 errors and type 2 errors. I didn't emphasize that much on the quizzes, and there's only 1 or 2 questions here on the final exam about type 1 and type 2 errors. So don't stress out, but know the difference between type 1 and type 2, and you'll be fine. All right, and then there are 5 multiple choice questions. Okay, I did make an effort to write some multiple choice questions. And so these are basically things like calculating standard error, stating the null or alternative hypotheses, finding an error bound for a mean, finding the EBM. So things like that are some multiple choice questions. And then everything after that is short answer. And like I said, the reason is because most of this material is hypothesis testing or confidence intervals and hypothesis testing. And so those aren't great fodder for multiple choice questions. So I thought I saw somebody pop into our Zoom. Okay. So basically, from chapter 6, my bad. You need to be able to find some probabilities for simple things, normal distribution probabilities and percentiles. Those will feel just like the questions that were on the quiz. So the chapter 6 to 7 quiz, the kind of questions that are on there pertaining to finding probability and percentiles and stuff, look at that. That's the kind of stuff you're going to need. Then let's see, we move on to chapter 7 with the central limit theorem. You got to know that when we're asking about the probability for a mean of some number of items, as opposed to find the probability that we randomly select one individual versus find the probability that the mean of something will be, less than 10 or greater than 9 or whatever. Know when to use the central limit theorem, okay? When you have a sample of a given size, that's when you switch and you start using the central limit theorem. And that's where we have a slightly different formula that we use that we call the standard error that goes in place of the standard deviation in the normal chapter 6 stuff. So there's a few questions there that come out of chapter 7. Again, look at your chapter 6 and 7 quiz. That'll be the best place to get some practice, or to look for the kinds of things you need to practice. All right, so then chapter 8, we start constructing confidence intervals. So the one thing, that is formula related that you need to know is you need to have those formulas for finding sample size, okay? And on the chapters 8 and 9 quiz, finding sample size was probably the most frequently missed question. So take a really, close look at those formulas. Make sure you have those memorized, okay? It's basically the only formula that you need to memorize, really, aside from maybe like the z-score formula, but that's not that complicated. But the sample size formulas for means and for proportions should be memorized. Okay, you got to know those. Everything else can pretty much be done in the calculator with, one prop z int or z interval or t interval. So, as long as you are pretty good at this point at finding those intervals in the calculator, then for the most part, you should be good. All right, then we get to chapter 9 and we start with hypothesis testing. And honestly, the biggest thing that you need to be able to do is finding the null and alternative hypotheses, okay? I put a lot of questions in here that just ask you to state the null and alternative hypotheses for various scenarios, okay? So if you're gonna practice one thing, practice that from chapter 9, okay? Because there are a lot of questions on here that ask for that, okay? And the reason is because it's super important. I think some of the, the grades weren't bad on the chapter 8-9 quiz or anything, but some of the issues that I saw in the chapter 8-9 quiz that were particularly from chapter 9 came from not getting your null and alternative hypothesis correct. So, really focus in on that. If you need to go back and watch the video again, do that, where I go through. The way I usually do it is I write my claim and the opposite of that claim. And then from those two, the one that has equality is the null, and the one that doesn't have equality is the alternative. So if you need to, like I said, if you need to watch that video again, that would be a worthwhile use of your time. And after that, yeah, it's basically, just doing hypothesis tests. So in the calculator, you're doing z-test or t-test or, no, I'm sorry, we're doing one prop Z test, right, for proportions. I need to look at my calculator. We have one SAMP. No, we don't. One prop Z test, and then we're using Z test and T test for chapter 9. Okay, where I was getting confused was in chapter 10, that's when we switched to the 2 SAMP things. So when you get to chapter 10, and there's just a couple questions at the end of the exam from chapter 10, that's when, if you're dealing with a proportion, you do, or 2 proportions, you do 2 prop Z test. If you've got 2 means, then it's either 2 SAMP Z or 2 SAMP T. We use Z if we have the population standard deviation. We use T if we don't have the population standard deviation. So it's a lot of short answer, which I'm not crazy about. But fortunately, like I said, a lot of these, when you get to chapter 9, a ton of it is stating the null and alternative hypotheses. So it shouldn't take an inordinate amount of time. Okay, you should be okay. See if there's anything else I wanted to say about the exam. It'll be 2 hours again. Start at 9 o'clock on Friday. I haven't heard from anybody that there's any conflict, so hopefully at this point we're all square. I'll have everything wiped down and disinfected, and wear your masks or don't wear your mask. I think in general, the way the policy is going to be once school starts is you're going to need your masks like in class changes and stuff. So probably what would be best is wear a mask until you get seated at your desks and start taking the exam. And then if you'd like to take it off, you can take it off. If you want to wear it the whole time, wear it the whole time. But I think that's the policy that's going to start us out this school year at least. So I'm going to ask you guys to do that as well if you could. So if you show up and you don't have a mask, I'm not going to bar you from taking the exam. I just, it's a thing we're all going to have to start remembering to bring. I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow morning. Please email me if you have any questions about the exam. And otherwise, take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.